Hello guys and welcome back to StarDrive with the BlackBox and Combined Arms mods. So I wanted to start in the loading screen just as a point of record, really. So we got to Combined Arms 6.9G and BlackBox 11037. Yeah, just wanted to kind of record that for posterity so that when the mod developers, they pass the modding on to their children, and then on to their children's children, the codex will reflect that we got this far. So let's load up the game. So I've decided that I'm going to bring this campaign to an end, and again, I just commented that didn't take very long to load at all, given how far we are into the campaign. So yeah, I decided to bring this one to an end, because I think we've got to the point now where it's just kind of watching me take system after system. The plan would have been to take sort of all the Draylock worlds, which were falling pretty quickly, and then we'd have sort of turned our attention north, maybe hit the Courtesine first, perhaps whilst they were still at war with the Kulrathi. And then I think I'd have been in a decent position to finish off the Kulrathi, which they're still fairly large, but yeah, we haven't finished off the remnants yet. But I don't know. I just kind of feel like the narrative of this campaign has kind of sort of plateaued a little bit. So I just want to do a bit of a rambly episode about the various things in this campaign. Yeah, but I haven't written a script or anything, so it will be a true ramble, so fair warning there. So let's start with having a look just at the situation in terms of the various races. So we're playing as the Vulfar. We're now number 1 in everything, and I think on normal AI is a challenge, particularly if it's got a production, a population advantage, but when the human player gets reaches parity, or in my case has superiority, then the human player can kind of make progress fairly steadily. I wouldn't say easily, but you can kind of control the situation. So Raleigh, then they were knocked out pretty early on in the game, as with the Opterus, and I think I was talked about it in my sort of human campaign a lot, about how they spread out onto those barren worlds, and it's quite a strength that they can use the barren worlds when no other races really can, to that extent. But it does spread them out a lot, and I think if they go early game, then they just don't get that kind of critical mass. Draylock, I think they did okay. They certainly were a pain in my backside early campaign when I sort of went to war with them, and they were able to marshal fleets together and come and take my worlds off me. So they were fine. We'll talk about the Kulrathi in a minute, and the Polyps and the Courtesine. United Federation, they're a little bit, well, I wouldn't say a flop. I was hoping they'd do more against the Courtesine, but I think at that point the Courtesine was so strong, there wasn't really much they can do, and they federated with the Kulrathi. The Dauntless was a bit odd in that they kind of got crushed fairly early on, but then hung around. I think it's because the remnants were basically keeping them squished down, but then also kind of protecting worlds for them. So it was a little bit odd, but not too much of a problem. So then, the big three, as it were. So the Polyps were that's one of my early game enemies, and we sort of got the better of them. I then left them alone, and they federated with the Courtesine and turned them into a bit of a super empire, which was able to take on ourselves, the Draylock, and the Kulrathi all at once. So I'd recommend watching the early videos of this campaign, where we sort of we came up here, sort of our empire, sort of, I think the border was at Pearl. We had several episodes where Pearl was won and lost, and we basically got pushed all the way back. We fought battles at I think Memnor. Yeah, this whole area was hit, and the Triax system was lost. The Triax was a very important production system for me, and I think we spent probably about 5 or 6 episodes where I would comment about, well, is it really is it GG? Is the game over? And then the comments in the videos afterwards was like, I think you're done. But then the Kilrathi declared war, and the Courtesine were in sort of a 3-front war, and that just basically gave me enough breathing room to push back. Yeah, I think one of the ways we were able to do that is carriers, and I'll come on to that in a moment. So yeah, we pushed back, and I have no criticisms really about the way that went, because they were engaged in a 3-front war, and so when our fleets did meet in battle, they remained quite the challenge. They were going beam weapons, and then when they sort of grouped up into little death balls of beam ships, they were quite the challenge. I was quite glad that the Kilrathi broke their alliance with me, declared war, and basically didn't let me dictate the game. Otherwise, I would have taken all of the Draylock worlds and then kind of been unstoppable. The issue was the Kilrathi then kind of sort of flopped a bit. I was really worried because they actually had a world in Varta, they had a few over here, some here, and so we were looking at kind of a very, very long front, and I found the AI is quite good. The Courtesine were pretty good at sending several fleets to kind of keep you off balance, so you can't build up one mega death fleet. You've got to kind of split it up into at least 2 so that you can kind of meet threats as well as carry out your own offensives. And yeah, I don't know, they sort of picked targets, I think, a bit too deep in my empire, and never really got going. So that was a bit of an anticlimax, and I commented when they then went to war with the Courtesine. Actually, I thought the Courtesine would do better, would punch above their weight, and yeah, early signs are that they are indeed doing that, which is it's okay. The races should have advantages, but yeah, I think the Kilrathi need a little bit of work, whether their ships are too slow or whether it's because they just focused on missiles. So yeah, they could do a bit with a bit of work. The remnants, I suppose it's a matter of preference, really. I do think the remnants came and smacked down the Draylock. I think they hit maybe the Dauntless as well. They definitely hit them at some point. I quite like them in the game for a bit of flavour, but if you wanted a pure sort of let's see how strong the races are against each other, you'd probably be best selecting the option not to have the remnants in the game, because they do upset things. So yeah, one of the reasons why we were able to kind of hold off the Courtesine was they didn't attack Varta, and I think had they beeline for Varta, which, bearing in mind they'd taken Triax, I think they took Triax and then they came down here. Had they hit Varta, then I'd have been in real trouble, but we were just quite lucky on that one. Had to pause again because my dogs, you probably hear him barking, charging around the house like idiots. Anyway, so the second thing that meant that we were able to hold out is ship design. And basically, sort of, I wanted to do carriers because I thought they'd be pretty cool, kind of Battlestar Galactica-esque. But we've got a little bit of a glitch. So that one. So yeah, wanted to do carriers, and so put a few in the fleet. But actually, what happened was the Courtesine just kept wiping out our frontline brawlers, particularly with their beam ships. So it was only the carriers that actually remained, and so we ended up with a bit of a carrier strike force, partly out of necessity, partly out of design, and it meant that with keeping them supplied with ordnance, we were able to sort of reproduce our fighters and keep regenerating them, which sort of just kind of kept us in the fight long enough for the attention of the Corzine to switch to either the Dreylock or the Kilrathi, and then whilst that attention was switched, we were able to sort of counter attack. So that was really great. I like very much the sort of the carrier stuff, and we'll definitely do more of that in the future. Didn't go drones this time. I think they're pretty cool as well. The Corzine, we're using drones, and I think if I was going to say anything, it was that early game the AI perhaps didn't go for the carriers as much as they should have, but during the campaign I think the AI was updated, and they did start hitting some of my my carriers. And just on the ship design and I've very much enjoyed it. The Vulfar are quite the challenge with their sort of very very thin frigate, but it's thin, but it's all together in one block. It's fairly useful. There's not sort of weird little arms and legs sort of that you can't build decent stuff on. And as you then go up the tree, it obviously gets a lot better. So the ship design, absolutely loving that. In terms of the weapons, this time I wanted to go energy weapons and give them more of a go. I found that when we went from the fusion beams up to the phasers, and I invested all of that tech in getting there, we produced those ships which basically had a number of fusion beams on the retrievers, weren't they? So when we produced our retrievers, they were very very satisfying to watch them open up and actually meet the Corzine beams head on. That was very cool. Energy weapons. Well, I'm not going to comment on whether they're balanced or anything like that, because I'm just too much of a noob still, and I just need to play more around with it. I think on reflection, I was a bit silly, because I came point defense as well, because I needed some point defense, and I went with these defense guns. I should have gone pure energy and had a look at these energy point defense ones. But we'll do that in a future game. I should have teched up more in shielding and armor. I find myself drawn to the kind of the electrical armor, because it's useful. It sort of kind of hides the sins of your low power if you haven't teched up enough. So I think in my next playthrough I'm going to try not to use this as a bit of a crutch, and we're going to go polyps, and we're going to go with this tree, which I've just not really used. So kind of the organic armor tree, where it'll kind of repair. So we'll go down this middle tree as far as possible, just on its own, beeline down here, and see how we get on. The polyps have got kind of, well, I've seen them use sort of weird weaponry. So let me just, where is it? Is it even in the energy branch? It's not there. I'm looking for basically, this stuff. So it's in physics. The plasma weapons, the ionic weaponry. So that's what we're going to do in the next campaign, is have a look at this stuff, which I've never really had a look at, and maybe some of this stuff. I'm not sure about that. We'll give the polyps a go and see how we get on with a different race in the next one. We've had a couple of bugs during this campaign. The two biggest ones was when the Corzine and polyps federated. They actually gained all of the technologies in the game, but the mod developers jumped on that very quickly, sorted that out for me. The second one was when my first fleet disappeared. Now, it wasn't a bad bug. All the ships were still there. But it did make me wonder how old I was getting, and whether I was losing my memory and perhaps should be contributing more to the pension and the mortgage than I am right now. But again, the developers dealt with that very, very quickly, so no major issues there. I screwed up my economy early game, so next game, I think from the off, I'm going to go auto taxes and just kind of make sure the governor has got enough of a budget. But I wouldn't really comment too much on the economy because I'm a bit too noobish. I messed it up, and I need to do better next time, particularly in the design of the freighters, which I think I just made too expensive by trying to put weapons on them. And the other thing I wanted to say on the economic front, well, not the economic front actually, it's more the sort of the planet front. So the volcanoes have been introduced into the game, which is really cool. Where was it? Was it Yellow 2? There's loads of volcanoes down here. Yeah. So these are making this barren planet slowly more useful. So the lava flows come, they destroy buildings, but then when they recede, the planet becomes more useful, and that's a really cool feature. I think it might be a bit too prevalent right now. It's you get a lot of notifications when you've got more than a handful of planets, so perhaps it's just a little bit too prevalent and needs to be toned down a bit in future versions. But the more of this sort of flavor stuff, the better, I think. And I don't know whether it would be easy or not to do, but perhaps you could take the coding of the volcano and then swap out the image and description and have it like you could have it on ice planets. It could be like a mountain, and the stuff it kicks off could be sort of avalanche or something like that. I don't know, or maybe like sort of a tsunami type thing. You could have like a big wave symbol there because it's just to represent what's going on. But these volcanoes, they're going to be they're not like your little Etna or Vesuvius. These are your Krakatoas, your Mount St. Helens, your sort of planet-changing volcanoes. So yeah, they are perhaps a little bit too prevalent. Didn't get as far technologically as to terraformers, but it was so cool to find one on Vata 8, and then it slowly progressively turned the planet into an ice planet, which is a 15.5 now, which is so useful. It just took a while to get there. So that kind of alien relic stuff is brilliant. Absolutely love that. Talking about another thing I really enjoyed was kind of on the lines of sort of alien relics is finding these artifacts. They're the first artifacts I've found in a game, and the 10% bonus to the hit points and the ground combat troops, which moved my guys up from 10 strength up to 11. Really nice, not sort of massively game changing, but enough that you feel really it feels really good to get them, and there needs to be a bit of risk and reward in those sort of early kind of alien derelict type stuff. Really enjoyed that. You shouldn't have too many of them. They should be. I think having 2 is fine. That's kind of you don't want a whole list of them off here, because otherwise it becomes a little bit meaningless. So a small number of kind of impactful artifacts was very, very good. Espionage, I'm a bit reluctant to talk about espionage just because it's not really my thing. I'm playing a Distant Worlds campaign at the moment, and I just automate the people, the sort of the captains and all of that kind of stuff, just because I'm not that fussed. If I was playing something like Crusader Kings, obviously the people is everything. But when you're playing sort of a Space 4X, I just think, they're not that important. So espionage, just not my thing. Guys, feel free as always to ask me anything in the comments, and I'll respond. But I've think the key takeaways. I've really enjoyed myself. I'm surprised that I managed to survive, and one of the reasons why I started doing YouTube vids, other than all the women and the money, is to actually make sure I stick with campaigns, because I've just found just playing single player quietly on my own, if things would go wrong in campaigns in all sorts of games, I'd sometimes be a little bit of kind of quit a little bit too soon, do a bit of a re-roll. Whereas when you're sort of filming it like this, it sort of holds you accountable a bit more. And I would not have had that enjoyable sort of story arc of the recovery if I was just doing it on my own. And it was the fact that I had to sort of produce the next vid, and people were looking forward to it. Kept me fighting. So that's been really, really nice. I've enjoyed that, and I hope the next campaign is as entertaining. Where we will play as the polyps. So looking to the next one, as I say, we're going to play as the little buggers. We're going to go sort of repairing armor. We'll go kind of a mix maybe of energy weapons and weird weapons. We'll go polyps, definitely energy, definitely sort of repairing armor. I think we'll have a little think about carriers. I really enjoyed it, and the polyp ships look quite fat and chunky, and would perhaps be good good carriers. So we'll give that a go. We'll go on a similar sized map. I think the map is quite nice in terms of its size. We'll change up a bit. I think we'll go clusters, because one of the mod developers has developed sort of a cluster map, so we'll have our own little cluster to kind of conquer and get set up. So the AI then will have hopefully likewise a little place in which to set up. We'll keep the remnant stories on. Most of the things will be the same. I'll keep the polyps where their traits, won't mess around with them too much. So the big question is difficulty. Now, hard was really hard when I played as the Vulfar, but I'm a bit more experienced now. So I think we give a hard campaign a go, and if I get my ass kicked, then we'll do a try again version where we keep the options the same but just drop the difficulty down to normal. So look guys, I hope you're enjoying the content. I'm really continuing to enjoy StarDrive, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks very much.